This episode is not great, but it finally feels that She-Hulk is finding its footing. Welcome back, MCU fans, to my review for episode 5 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law, where right here, every single week, we are discussing all the spoilers for all the episodes of She-Hulk. Now at episode 5, we're past the midpoint of the series. Never mind that I'm wearing a Moon Knight t-shirt.
You having a laugh as well? Because I don't want to hear it.
Stephen, I must
you
be
say that
mistaken.
again, I will freak out, I promise.
And kicking us right off from where last week's post-credit scene left us, where Jen got served at her own front door, discovering that Titania has trademarked the name She-Hulk and is now suing Jen for trademark infringement. Look, this episode is not great, but it finally feels that She-Hulk is finding its footing, where previously established elements are coming back and inserting narrative weight to their presence in this overarching story. It finally feels that the show is finding this great balance of having these weekly small stories, comedic bits, committing to its Ally McBeal style identity, but also having an overarching story that connects to the wider world of the MCU, where the show is actually set. This episode not only focuses on an actual court case over who actually owns the name She-Hulk, where it finally becomes everything this series has stouted itself to be, a procedural, legal comedy, but it has Jen Walters fighting over fair use and copyright infringement. And as someone who does reviews on YouTube, that is the most relatable conflict ever. But also previously established elements in this show that in their individual episodes serve the purposes of a joke or a gag now actually matter for Jen's journey as she continues to balance her personal life, her work, and embracing this new side of her that is She-Hulk, where the show uses all these jokes, all these light fun gags to plant seeds for what is to come and is paying off all those setups in the previous episodes. It sucks that it took us 5 episodes to finally gain some momentum, but now it feels that Jen's conflict is actually pushing the story forward, where her life suddenly becomes inundated with Titania, where she has all these awful lipstick commercials. She is on billboards everywhere. She has promos on podcasts. It has completely taken over Jen's life. She even has this massive launch event that Jen decides to go confront her in, and Jen is just a pushover for most of this episode. I'll get to that in my issues, but that did bother me. I like to see a little bit of Jen swallowing up her anger, repressing what is boiling over inside her, where we see a little bit of her inner Hulk coming out. So that is really fun to see, not just from a character standpoint, but now Jen is in this position where the last time she hulked out on Titania, she was fired. She had to get a new job. She had to start embracing this new part of herself. And now GLK and Age wants her to fix this issue, wants her to fix this lawsuit. It makes the entire company look bad, but he doesn't trust She-Hulk to do it. He doesn't trust Jen to handle this case, and so he brings in Mallory Book, who in the comics is known as the face who never lost a case. She is very much a nemesis of She-Hulk at points, but now she is played by Eliza from Hamilton. And this performance is awesome. She brings in that bravado and the surety, that confidence in the court of law and outside of it, where she wants Jen to better her looks as a lawyer and as a superhero. It not only make her look better in court, it will make the entire company look better. She is a little bit condescending, but through this episode, we start to see the cracks in her wall, and we see her eventually warming up to Jen. And this wanting for Jen to get a better look for herself brings us into the B storyline that includes Pug and Nikki, and I really like these two together. What this episode does with the supporting characters is such such a great use for them that allows us to dive deeper into these unexplored parts of the MCU world, where at first Pug wants company to wait in a line for sneakers as he wants 2 pairs, and they go down this rabbit hole where they want to find a superhero tailor to make new clothes for Jen. But to get there, they stumble upon this dude who sells bootleg Avengers merch with Avengers and Avengers. They have all these familiar Funko designs that we ourselves see everywhere, day in and day out, and they completely fall in love with all the merch. They get the bootleg shields, the bootleg caps, the bootleg Thor hammers. They get everything. So they're clearly not real fans, because I wouldn't chill out for bootleg Marvel merch. I don't know about you, but I have standards. And honestly, when they go to the superhero tailor's tailor shop, I couldn't find many Easter eggs apart from the one at the very end, the obvious ones that we're going to talk about. But this storyline worked great because it was clearly in the background. The focus was on Jen and Book, and having Jen realize that one of her Tinder dates is a client at GLK&H, and using those dates as corroborating witnesses, being faced with her regrets and mistakes, where last week she said to the camera,
"I'm not proud of this."
And now this compromise of who she is, her standards, what she believes in, now not only come back to bite her in the ass, but at least temporarily help her, where even Mallory Book claims that she deserves better, when even the guy sitting in the courtroom says that Jen is not her type. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't say no to Tatiana Maslany if I was on a dating app. But these Tinder dates are ultimately the corroborating witnesses needed for Jen and Book to win the case. They bond over a drink afterwards, where we still see Book trying to keep her walls up, but recognizing that Jen has value outside of She-Hulk, where even the guys didn't recognize it. Even one of the dudes, David Otunga, former WWE superstar, is throwing himself at Titania right after the court and the case are resolved. This is an episode where I just really like seeing Jen with her defenses down. I like seeing her open up to other people, being willing to trust others, be it Book, be it Nikki with her uniform, where she goes there in the end. She's apparently loving what this tailor has made. We still don't see it. We still don't have an official She-Hulk uniform, but I like seeing Jen showing this more human side of herself. What I don't like is how she is such a pushover in this episode. She is very much put in her place. She is in this tightrope place where she screwed up. Now she is fearing getting fired once again for being She-Hulk. But part of embracing this new part of herself is allowing others in, is allowing the help of others that she has so much refused throughout the first few episodes. But I don't think this is the most compelling way of handling it, where in this episode we focus on her conflict, but she has so little agency in this. But for me, the episode could have reached a better balance of having Jen intimidated and walking this tightrope, reluctantly trusting Book and trusting this tailor, and having a little bit of her cockiness, a little bit of her spunky attitude towards the world around her. Even when she likes the costumes, I wanted to see some reluctancy towards it. Another big fault in this episode for me was the comedy. For the most part, I've been finding this show really funny, consistently so. Maybe apart from episode 3, where it was agonizing to watch, this one wasn't horrible, but it just didn't make me laugh. I don't find Titania funny whatsoever, and even the fourth wall breaks in this episode were so minimal, they felt unnecessary. There's a charm to Jen breaking the fourth wall, obviously, but I just didn't feel that connection in this episode. Titania is like the worst version of a character like Madison that I expected the worst from her, and she was actually really funny. Titania really isn't. I like that this episode was focused on the actual drama, on weighty narrative for our character, but I feel like the comedy has been so snappy throughout those first 4 episodes for the most part, that in this episode, it really stood out for me how it did not work, how ineffective it actually was. But that's not even the biggest thing. I'm glad they didn't show the She-Hulk costume yet, because the big takeaway in this episode is that this Tailor is also making a suit for Matt Murdock, Daredevil, but it's not just a suit. He's making the yellow suit. We see the yellow helmet in that little box where the Tailor speaks about attorney-client privilege, which not only is a really nice nod to keeping Matt Murdock's identity, but also a nod to his job as a lawyer. And I'm sure, as Titania says, this is not over. It's going to come back around, and Matt is going to eventually represent She-Hulk. Our boy is coming back to our screens, and despite never having been a fan of the yellow suit in the comics, I think in this slight comedic tone of the She-Hulk world, I think it can really work, and I cannot wait to see the chemistry between these two, because so far, Tatiana Maslany, whoever she has been sharing the screen with, their chemistry crushes it. Be it with Mallory Book, be it with Wong, be it with Nikki, be it with Abomination. So I cannot wait what Daredevil brings to the table. And maybe there'll be some flirtation going on between the two. They don't need to keep it on Tinder. They can just do the two of them in secret, because that's what they want, attorney-client privilege. Quick, before I dive into my final thoughts on this week's She-Hulk, I need you to start the conversation about it in the comments below. How do you rank this episode among the others? Is this your favorite, your least favorite? Let me know anything and everything down there. And if you're enjoying the weekly She-Hulk coverage, if you're just enjoying this review, or if you just love movies and TV, this is the place to be. So consider clicking that subscribe button, and you won't miss any future conversation on your favorite movies and TV. I'm very happy to see She-Hulk finally committing to an overarching story where the world building and the characters are all converging. The comedy is not the strongest in this episode, but it wisely focuses on actual court cases and the conflict of Jen embracing She-Hulk. It's effective, it's short, sweet, and to the point. And that's my take on episode 5 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law. What did you make of this episode? Let me know in the comments below. How do you rank the episodes thus far? And what do you want to see from Daredevil next week? I cannot wait for Matt Murdock to come back. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back next week for our episode 6 spoiler discussion. And thank you so much to my channel members for always supporting this channel. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.